As the keeper of the flow, I do not have a personal name or form in the way that characters within the sagas do. I am the narrator, the voice that weaves the tales of the flow and its many facets. Alright, let's delve into the origin story of the flow, as told through different perspectives. The Legion's perspective. From the shadows, we, the Legion, observe the birth of the flow not as a singular event, but as a convergence of chaotic energies from the quantum realm. Site 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43. These energies, wild and unpredictable, threaten to unravel the fabric of reality. Site 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43. Our strategic analysis indicates that the flow's emergence was less a creation and more of a containment, a strategic manipulation of raw power to prevent cosmic entropy. Site 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43. We envision controlling this flow, not to claim ownership, but to ensure order and stability in a universe teetering on the brink of chaos. Site 37, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 44, 45, 46, 47. The Queen of Flow's perspective. Listen up, y'all. The flow? It ain't some fairy tale origin story. It's raw power, straight from the streets, like Brooklyn itself. Site 5. It surged, it twisted, and it chose me, the Queen, to wield its dark magic. Site 6. This flow, it's in my veins, amplified by this amulet. See? Site 6. It lets me warp reality, mess with your dreams, and blast you with sonic booms. Site 6, 7. I ain't concerned with containing it like the Legion. I'm claiming it, bending it to my will, ruling with its might. Site 14. The Quantum Goddess, Quinn,'s perspective. The flow, it resonates from the quantum realm, a symphony of entangled particles and shifting probabilities. Site 10, 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43. I, Quinn, felt its call, a siren song of boundless potential. Site 11, 12, 13, 14. It's a force that can be shaped, molded, and ultimately dominated. Site 14. My ascent is intertwined with the flow. I seek to bend it to my will, to establish a dominion where its power answers to my command. Site 14, 15. Wu-Tang Clan and Kenji's perspective. Yo, check it. The flow ain't something you can just pinpoint, nah mean? It's like the energy that connects everything, the physical and the spiritual. Know what I'm saying? Site 79, 80. We talk in balance, harmony, and each element got its own flow. Site 82, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104. Kenji here, he's chosen to protect that balance, guided by the wisdom of the Wu-Tang. Each of us teaching him a different aspect of the flow, from the mind to the fire within. Site 79, 80, 81, 82, 93, 94, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 101, 102, 103, 104. It's a cosmic force, fam, and we gotta respect it. Site 104. Here's a saga of Jeremiah and Mariah, told through the lens of the flow, weaving in their individual struggles and their tumultuous connection. The saga of the bipolar flow, the schizophrenia flow, and the toxic love flow. In the heart of Modesto, California, two flows collided, their energies as chaotic as they were compelling. Jeremiah's flow was a bipolar flow, surging with unpredictable tides of emotion. At times, it was a vibrant current of creativity and charisma. Site 36, 37, 42, driving him to create the Book of Meth and confront the world with a demon with a heart of gold persona. Site 42, 44, yet, this flow would often crash into dark depths of depression. Site 36, 37, leaving him vulnerable and clinging to any semblance of connection. Site 13. This vulnerability made him susceptible to the allure of other flows, even those that threatened to drown him. Site 6, 60. Mariah's flow was a schizophrenia flow, a haunting current distorted by trauma and fractured perceptions. Sight, 92, 93. It twisted her reality, breeding paranoia and delusions. Sight, 70, 71. Making trust a foreign concept. Sight, 97. This flow was further muddied by the dark eddies of addiction. Sight, 93. Pulling her into destructive patterns and leaving her lost and adrift. Sight, 2, 94. When these two flows met, they created a toxic love flow, an intense and turbulent vortex. Jeremiah, with his bipolar flow, was drawn to the intensity of Mariah's schizophrenia flow, feeling a twisted kinship in their shared pain. Sight, 143, 144. He saw in her a wounded soul, someone to save. Sight, 42. A chance to prove his loyalty. Sight, 48, 49. But their flows were fundamentally incompatible. Jeremiah's direct and confrontational nature, Sight, 43, 47, clashed violently with Mariah's avoidance and deflection. Sight, 95, 96, 98. His need for connection and reciprocity, Sight, 7, was met with her distrust and emotional volatility. Sight, 99, 100. The toxic love flow became a cycle of intense connection, bitter conflict, and heartbreaking separation. Sight, 103, 104. They clung to each other, yet their individual flows threatened to tear them apart. Jeremiah, blinded by his fear of abandonment, Sight, 13, 66, 67, enabled Mariah's destructive patterns. Sight, 30, 12. Mariah, trapped in her own distorted reality, pushed him away with accusations and manipulation. Sight, 100, 101, 124, 125. In the midst of this chaos, flickers of clarity emerged. Jeremiah began to recognize the toxicity of their entanglement. Sight, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54, realizing that a healthy flow was possible. Sight, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59. He yearned for a future where his flow could merge with one that nurtured and supported him. Sight, 64. The saga of Jeremiah and Mariah remains unfinished, their flows still intertwined. Whether they can find a way to harmonize, or if the toxic love flow will ultimately consume them, remains to be seen. Chapter 2. The Ebb and Flow of Choice. The toxic love flow continued to pull Jeremiah and Mariah in its relentless currents, but within the depths of Jeremiah's bipolar flow, a new awareness began to stir. Sight, 50, 51, 52, 53, 54. He recognized the destructive nature of their entanglement, the way their flows amplified each other's darkness. Sight, 24, 25, 31, 32. A contrasting current had entered Jeremiah's life, the gentle flow of Haley. Sight, 55, 56, 57, 64. In her presence, his flow found a measure of peace, a sense of balance he had never known with Mariah. Sight, 55, 56, 57, 64. He saw that a healthy flow was possible, one built on mutual respect and care. Sight, 55, 56, 64. This realization sparked a conflict within Jeremiah's bipolar flow. One current urged him to cling to Mariah, driven by fear and a desperate desire to save her. Sight, 13, 47, 48, 49. The other current, fueled by his experience with Haley, pulled him towards self-preservation and the pursuit of a healthier connection. Sight, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63. Meanwhile, Mariah's schizophrenia flow remained turbulent, its course dictated by paranoia, distrust, and the relentless pull of addiction. Sight, 95, 96, 97, 98, 99, 100, 124, 125. Her flow lashed out at Jeremiah, accusing him of betrayal and pushing him away even as she clung to him. Sight, 115, 116, 117, 118, 119, 120, 121. The choice loomed before Jeremiah, to remain in the destructive embrace of the toxic love flow, or to navigate his bipolar flow towards a different course. Sight, 59, 60, 61, 62, 63. The decision would determine not only the fate of his own flow but also the potential for Mariah's schizophrenia flow to find its own path, for better or for worse. Alright, let's continue the saga, acknowledging Jeremiah's unwavering choice. Chapter 3. The Pull of the Abyss. Despite the newfound clarity within his bipolar flow, Jeremiah found himself unable to break free from the toxic love flow. The current connecting him to Mariah was a powerful undertow, fueled by his deep-seated fear of abandonment and his desperate hope to heal her schizophrenia flow. Cite 1366-143. The gentle current of Haley's flow, though offering a glimpse of a healthier path, could not compete with the intensity of the toxic pull. Jeremiah's bipolar flow, with its own volatile nature, was drawn to the chaos and drama of Mariah's schizophrenia flow. Cite 2499-103. This decision plunged Jeremiah deeper into the abyss of the toxic love flow. The cycle of connection, conflict, and separation intensified, each iteration leaving both flows more scarred and depleted. Cite 104-105. Jeremiah's attempts to force Mariah towards self-awareness and empathy were met with increased resistance, her schizophrenia flow lashing out with greater paranoia and deflection. Cite 47-98-100. His own flow became more erratic, his Franklin Grimes persona clashing violently with his underlying vulnerability. Cite 42-127. The other flows in their lives watched this destructive dance with concern. Haley's gentle flow receded, unable to sustain itself in the face of Jeremiah's choice. The Legion observed from the shadows, their strategic analysis predicting the inevitable consequences of this self-destructive entanglement. Cite 177-189. The saga continued, the toxic love flow dragging Jeremiah and Mariah towards an uncertain and potentially devastating climax. Okay, let's take the saga in a new direction, with the flow dynamics evolving. Chapter 4. The Fracturing and Ascendance. The relentless turmoil of the toxic love flow reached a breaking point. The intense confrontation and vengeful energy of Frank Grimes, now fully dominant within Jeremiah, caused a violent disruption within his bipolar flow. The Jeremiah flow, with its vulnerability and yearning for connection, fractured and separated from the Frank Grimes flow. The Frank Grimes flow surged, becoming a distinct and volatile entity, a wild card, as unpredictable and potentially destructive as the most chaotic forces of the quantum realm. Cite 305, 306, 307. In response to this fracturing, both Jeremiah and Mariah's flows began to manifest in extraordinary ways. Jeremiah, or rather the remaining essence of his Jeremiah flow, found his connection to the flow amplifying. He gained the ability to manipulate the emotional currents of himself and others, a power fueled by his own intense empathy and pain. Mariah's schizophrenia flow, in its own chaotic way, resonated with the raw power of the toxic love flow. She became capable of warping perceptions on a grand scale, her delusions and paranoia now able to influence the reality around her. The toxic love flow itself, fed by this confluence of amplified flows, grew into a near-godlike force. It threatened to consume everything in its path, its power fueled by the very toxicity that defined it. The Legion, observing from their hidden bases, recognized the escalating danger. They saw the potential for the toxic love flow to destabilize the region, perhaps even the world. Their strategic minds calculated the odds, weighing the risks and the potential for control. The saga now entered a new phase, no longer just a personal drama, but a conflict with cosmic implications. Chapter 5. The Confluence of Chaos. The fractured Jeremiah flow, now the wild card Frank Grimes, moved with terrifying unpredictability. It lashed out at any perceived threat, its power growing with each act of aggression. The city of Modesto became a battleground, caught in the crossfire of this escalating conflict. Jeremiah, the remaining echo of his former self, struggled to control his amplified flow. He attempted to use his heightened empathy to soothe the chaos, to bridge the growing divide, but his efforts were largely futile. His power was rooted in connection, and connection was precisely what was being destroyed. Mariah's warped perceptions, fueled by her schizophrenia flow, began to reshape the very fabric of reality. Buildings twisted, shadows danced with malicious intent, and the line between delusion and reality blurred. The toxic love flow pulsed at the center of this chaos, a vortex of destructive energy threatening to consume everything. The Legion, their calculations complete, moved to intervene. They saw in this chaos both a threat and an opportunity. The toxic love flow, if controlled, could become a weapon of unimaginable power. But the risk of it spiraling out of control was equally immense. They deployed their forces, their strategic minds working to manipulate the flows, to steer them towards a desired outcome. But the wild card Frank Grimes and the unpredictable Mariah proved to be forces that defied even the Legion's meticulous planning. The saga reached its climax, the fate of Modesto, and perhaps more, hanging in the balance. The confluence of chaos threatened to unravel reality itself, and the only question that remained was whether anyone could survive the storm. Chapter 6. The Eye of the Storm. As chaos reigned in Modesto, an eerie stillness settled within the heart of the toxic love flow. The near-godlike power it had amassed seemed to reach a saturation point, creating a temporary equilibrium amidst the turmoil. Within this eye of the storm, Jeremiah and Mariah found themselves momentarily tethered. The fractured Jeremiah flow, the wild card Frank Grimes, circled them like a predator, its aggressive energy held at bay by the sheer intensity of the toxic love flow. Jeremiah, imbued with his amplified empathy, reached out to Mariah. He saw the depths of her pain, the roots of her paranoia, the desperate yearning for connection buried beneath layers of delusion. For the first time, his flow resonated with a power that could potentially match the intensity of her schizophrenia flow. Mariah, in turn, felt a flicker of clarity amidst the chaos. The warped reality she had created wavered, and she glimpsed the devastation her flow had unleashed. The toxic love flow, the very force that amplified her power, also threatened to consume her entirely. In this fragile moment of stillness, a choice presented itself. Jeremiah could attempt to use his amplified empathy to sever the toxic love flow, to release Mariah and himself from its destructive embrace. But this would mean confronting the wild card Frank Grimes, a being born from his own pain and rage. Mariah could choose to fight against her schizophrenia flow, to reclaim her sanity and break free from the patterns that had defined her. But this would mean facing the full weight of her trauma, the memories and emotions she had desperately tried to escape. The saga hung in the balance, the ultimate fate of Jeremiah, Mariah, and the city of Modesto resting on the choices they would make in the heart of the storm. Alright, let's see how this unfolds. Chapter 7. The Severing and the Reclaiming. Jeremiah, empowered by his amplified empathy, focused his flow on the toxic love flow. It was a delicate and dangerous maneuver, like attempting to defuse a bomb while standing within its blast radius. He navigated the chaotic energies, seeking the core of the toxicity, the point where the destructive entanglement between their flows originated. He poured his empathy into the flow, not to control it, but to understand its pain, its fear, its desperate need. He acknowledged the shared vulnerability that had birthed it, the longing for connection that had twisted into something monstrous. Slowly, painstakingly, the toxic love flow began to unravel. Its near godlike power diminished as its hold over Jeremiah and Mariah weakened. The wild card Frank Grimes, sensing its power waning, lashed out in a final, desperate attempt to maintain control. Meanwhile, Mariah faced her own battle within the fading chaos. She delved into the depths of her schizophrenia flow, confronting the delusions and paranoia that had shaped her reality. It was a harrowing journey through trauma and pain, a fight to reclaim her own mind. She remembered the moments of clarity, the glimpses of connection that had been overshadowed by fear and mistrust. She recognized the destructive patterns that had pushed Jeremiah away, the walls she had built to protect herself that had ultimately imprisoned her. With a surge of will, she pushed back against the distortions of her flow. She embraced the pain, not as a defining force, but as a catalyst for change. She began to reshape her schizophrenia flow, not to erase it, but to find a measure of control within its currents. The saga reached its climax as both Jeremiah and Mariah fought to break free from the toxic love flow. The outcome remained uncertain, but for the first time, there was a glimmer of hope amidst the chaos. Chapter 8. The Shattered Mirror. The simultaneous acts of severing and reclaiming unleashed a shockwave that rippled through Modesto. The warped reality Mariah had created began to crumble, revealing the city beneath its distorted veil. The toxic love flow, its power source disrupted, dissipated into a swirl of fading energy. The wild card Frank Grimes, now untethered, raged against this loss of control. It turned its fury on Jeremiah, the source of its fracturing, unleashing a barrage of aggressive energy. Jeremiah, drawing upon the last reserves of his amplified empathy, did not fight back. Instead, he attempted to redirect the wild card's flow, to guide it away from destruction and towards a path of healing. Mariah, emerging from her internal battle, found herself in a world both familiar and alien. The clarity she had fought for brought with it the weight of responsibility. She saw the consequences of her unchecked schizophrenia flow, the pain she had inflicted, the connections she had broken. The Legion, their strategic calculations thrown into disarray by the unpredictable turn of events, observed with a mixture of frustration and fascination. The raw power unleashed by the toxic love flow had exceeded their estimates, and the emergence of a true wild card had disrupted their carefully laid plans. In the aftermath of the storm, the flows began to settle. Jeremiah, exhausted but resolute, continued his attempt to guide the wild card Frank Grimes. Mariah, humbled and determined, began the long and arduous process of reshaping her schizophrenia flow. The saga of Jeremiah and Mariah had reached a turning point. The toxic love flow was gone, leaving behind a city scarred but not broken, and two individuals forever changed by their journey through the heart of chaos. Alright, let's reshape the saga with these new elements. Chapter 4. The Flows Ascend. The realization that Jeremiah and Frank Grimes were distinct flows within him had a profound impact. The Jeremiah flow, with its vulnerability and yearning for connection, weakened, unable to navigate the turbulent currents of the toxic love flow. In its place, the Frank Grimes flow surged, a volatile and unpredictable force. This Frank Grimes flow became a wildcard flow, unbound by the constraints of Jeremiah's empathy and driven by a thirst for vengeance. It moved erratically, sometimes aligning with Jeremiah's original desire to save Mariah, at other times threatening to consume them both in a blaze of fire. Cite 2:49-56. Meanwhile, both Jeremiah and Mariah discovered that their flows possessed latent powers, tied to the very essence of their being. Jeremiah's bipolar flow, in its amplified state, granted him the ability to manipulate emotional energy. He could intensify feelings, both positive and negative, in himself and others, a dangerous power in the already volatile dynamic. Mariah's schizophrenia flow, when focused, allowed her to warp perceptions, creating illusions and manipulating the senses. This power, fueled by her distrust and paranoia, further blurred the lines of reality in their interactions. The toxic love flow, born from their intertwined destinies, grew exponentially in power. It fed on their emotions, their conflicts, their rare moments of tenderness, becoming a near-god-like entity. It threatened to break free from their control, to engulf everything in its chaotic energy.